In the story of life, on every page, this glorious reprise, I am alone again. A page with my pride, leaving you everything. As you walk away tonight, remember who you were following. I will not forget my first. Now that you're gone, I feel the sickness coursing my veins. It's beginning again.
Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to the new MOC reviews. And we're starting off with Kasai, of course. He's got some updates, he's got some new stuff, and there's been a lot of story development since the last time we reviewed him, so let's jump right into it. Kasai is, of course, my self-MOC. And he has been for quite a few years now, about 5 at this point, which is crazy. I've had him since 2014, which is a really long time, considering that's pretty much when I started making Bionicle-related-ish videos, right around the time when G2 was announced. Kasai is a very upbeat, positive kind of guy. He loves spending time with Miri, of course, or just, hanging out with his friends, Camilio, Rangus, the other Guardians, whoever. He's always very dedicated on his missions and, very determined to protect Okoto and save the day and all that sort of jazz. Does get a little overconfident, a little bit cocky at times, but normally he has what it takes to get the job done. Kasai is from an island called the Breach, which is home to the Dark Hunters, which his mother and his father were both part of. His mother was killed shortly after he was born, so he never really got to meet her or know her at all. So Kareth and his uncle Dexian, kind of tag-teamed, raising him throughout his entire life, up until about his 16th birthday, when, of course, Kareth was killed by a roach and Kasai was shot off a cliff. Kasai was found a few months later, washed up on the shores of Okoto with no memory by some villagers. So in the events of the Mask of Imitation book, he was introduced to Tahu and started training, and he remembered his name at some point, but other than that, he just went, living his new life. Formed his Toa team, honorary Toa team, and some of the members were killed off, became the Guardians, went through the story of COD. Obviously you've seen this, so I don't need to go into that too much. One thing about Kasai's story that I do like a lot is that his backstory that he does not himself remember is not a secret. It was in the Tide Forgotten, people have seen it, everyone knows what happened, but Kasai doesn't. And Kasai doesn't really care. He doesn't really care to remember. He doesn't want to. He's not seeking for answers like most characters who have amnesia would be. He's just not interested. He has his new life. He's completely happy. He has his friends, he has his family. He doesn't really need anything else. And he's content with just leaving the past as it is. Though, of course, he has started to and will continue to remember his past, and that'll be further elaborated on in Legacy of Light, and we'll see how that all plays out. But enough talking about his story or him. Let's talk about the figure itself and the MOC and that kind of stuff. So, starting from the ground up, the feet are very basic. They are just standard hero feet with some pin studs and some 1x1 studded tiles. Just, basic stuff, very standard. His shins, of course, have remained the same for a long time now. They are just silver Star Wars shins and the 2 pinhole open-ended ball joint bones with a pin stud, blue on the back for some blue accent color, and then a red stud stuck into the back. Now, Kasai's torso design has changed a bit. It doesn't look very different on the outside, but on the inside and some certain details on the outside, you can tell it's different, obviously. The front looks pretty normal, but then you get around here, and it's not a Vaki waist anymore. It's a few Technic pieces in here have been glued together right here on both ends of this pin. It's been glued in place so that the hip joint doesn't just splay out to the side all randomly. As for his torso, while it looks largely the same, is still different. As you can tell, this is one of the, I think they came from Galador, maybe, but I know these ones specifically were on 2003 Makuta. This ratcheted joint, and the joint goes down under there. This has some black electrical tape wrapped around it to fill it out some more. And it makes for really good, solid articulation that can go pretty much however you want, and just holds up and doesn't get as loose and floppy as the old design did. So obviously the inner workings have changed a little bit to accommodate the new design. Now his arms are the same and have always been fairly basic, so there's nothing really to talk about here. He's still got the blue pin in there, but nothing to write home about. Now his head has remained the same as well. It's just the 2015 Tahu mask with a basic 2015 G2 head under there with the 2015 brain specifically, and the bushing. Nothing crazy, just a normal old head with a mask. Moving on to Kasai's articulation, he has open-ended ball joints in the foot, which allows him to get some ankle pivot and rotation, and of course forward and back. He's got single direction ball joints in the knees, which allows him to get about 90 normally, a little bit more maybe. And then if you move the armor shell to the front, which I often do, bends even farther. His hips are open ball joints, so he can kick up very high, kick back also very high, out to the side. You know, he can do anything pretty much at that point. Obviously his waist can crunch forward that far, can crunch back not too far, but it can do it, and then rotates as well on that ratchet. His shoulders still have the double ball joints, so he can kind of shrug his shoulders, and then he can move his arm up or do something like this, knock his mask off in the process. And the double ball joints allows him a great range of mobility in his shoulders, so that's perfect for stop motion, which I've started doing, not on him yet, but with drones and such, and Legacy of Light's going to have it, of course, so yeah, that'll be fun. As for his elbows, he's got an open-ended ball joint, you know, just usual stuff, same with his hands, and then of course his neck is also an open-ended ball joint, so pretty standard articulation for a more basic MOC. You know, just basic humanoid, all the standard articulation you would expect on a Bionicle with the basic humanoid design. Moving on to Kasai's accessories, he's of course got his two retractable swords that he always uses. And these have not changed at all since COD began, so that's just the way they are normally. In Legacy of Light at some point, he will be getting these little dual knives right here. So I think these are really cool. I originally painted them for Praetorian, obviously. It's just Praetorian blades with the red fully colored in. But I think they work really well for Kasai, match his normal swords very well, so I think it's really cool, and I'm very excited for him to use them at some point. Next on the list, he has this rifle, which Rangus made for him out of Roach's rifle. And obviously, this is gunmetal right now, and that's because the silver one I had it on broke. And I'm not entirely certain I have another silver Star Wars gun body, so I'll have to keep looking, but otherwise, he's kind of stuck with a gunmetal one for now, so I'll see what I can do about that. And then I think one of his most interesting accessories is this, which Rangus painted for me. Is a kind of a battle-damaged Kasai mask with all the paint scraped off and just little bits of red paint here and there. I'm very excited to use this in Legacy of Light at some point. It's going to be very fun to put to use, and I'm going to make some more battle-damaged armor for him when I do it. But yeah, so very excited for that. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I do love this mask, and it looks great on him. So there's the mask on Kasai right there. So, time for some Kasai's comparisons. Let me see. What could I compare him to? Here's a spray paint can. Here is Miri. Here is a little robot man who is missing an eyeball. There he is. And here's a Marvel Legends Infinity War Iron Man. So, all in all, I am still very, very happy with this version of Kasai. I think he's pretty much perfect. I think if anything could really use an update, it would be the back of his shins. But other than that, I am really satisfied with him and how far he's come, and you know how much he's changed and all his different updates. And honestly, I think he's one of my MOCs that is just always going to hold up, in my opinion. Even if the original version of this modern Kasai design was from around 2016, mid 2016 or so, somewhere around there, I still think that he was kind of ahead of his time in terms of my mocking ability, and he's changed, of course. But I think just the groundwork that he started from with this design has always just really held up and is just great. And I think it's probably part of why his torso design, his previous one, has just spread so far and so many people have decided to use it. So yeah, I think he really holds up, and he's just a great MOC all in all. So yeah, that was the first new Bionicle MOC review. Let me know what you guys think of Kasai in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one when I check out Miri.